The law requires the IEBC to deliver certain forms. I'd invite the court to look at the form for this particular location, this particular polling station, and see whether what has been set out in Mr. Odinga's affidavit is correct. Let's go to the last slide. What then are we telling you? The numbers between the IEBC portal, the IEBC presiding officer, the UDA agent, the Azimio agent, and the Form 34A from Bomas are all aligned. Question we must ask is, where did the form that is presented by Mr. Odinga come from? Arnold Odinga, so that we do not mix up names. I think this must be what the late Issa Juma of Super Wanyika had in mind when he penned the words, sisi twajua anafanya biashara, lakini biashara anajua mwenyewe. Only Mr. Odinga can tell us where this came from. And the other 40, they are not part of what was actually the product of the people expressing their will. So, in a nutshell, even without trying to demonstrate to you how the other irregularities and alleged infringements of the law have not affected the law, the petitioners fall far short of what is expected. But let me look at one or two things, because one of the things that has really featured a lot, and I'm going to try and avoid rehashing what has been said by the other lawyers, is that the commissioners have a significant role. That what 138(3)(c) means is that the commissioners, the 7 men and women, have to be involved in the exercise that is to be undertaken. With respect, this submission is skewed by a failure to interpret the Constitution correctly. I think it's long been settled that the Constitution, the interpretation of the Constitution, looks both at the text and the context. And what has happened here is that the petitioners have decided we will stick with the text. And even that they stretch. They say the IEBC, the commission, means there's 7 of them. With respect, that's an invitation to the Supreme Court to, through the back door, overturn what Maina Kiai said, which is that you start at the lowest level and cascade things, but it is not the job of 7 men and women. Let's look at the 7 commissioners a little more, and in particular the 4 who it is said should lead to the conclusion that the election was not conducted in accordance with the Constitution. They were on board with every other commissioner. They spoke with one voice until about 3 p.m. on the 15th of August. Then they had their Damascus moment and made it to Serena. They changed their position. If you look at the affidavit of Samuel Gidai, look at the clips of the 4 commissioners announcing the results. But you were told here yesterday they were being given pieces of paper to read out numbers. Is this believable? But we were told by another speaker, another advocate, that these men and women were vetted by the National Assembly. They are therefore very serious citizens who correctly undertake a very important function, the running of elections. But they say they did not participate in this. In determining who to believe, look at the context. Look at the whole series of events from when the nomination took place, when the ballot papers were printed, including the supervision that they undertook, and determine whether these 4 commissioners are to be believed. Mr. Njenga, for I think the 7th respondent, argues they are here not to support either side, but to discharge their duty under the Constitution. But they did file a response. They started off by filing affidavits to set out the evidence. There's no property in a witness. They didn't stop there. On the 26th of August, they decided, we will appoint another lawyer on behalf of the IEBC who is in effect going to admit the alleged infringements. This is where you apply the duck test. If it looks like a duck, if it swims like a duck, if it quacks like a duck, it must be a duck. They are saying we are here to show you we are independent. Are they? With respect, their conduct demonstrates otherwise. In a word, it is my humble submission that the petitioners have not demonstrated there were any irregularities or illegalities. Forget the magnitude. They really haven't demonstrated any. I'd urge you to dismiss these petitions. Ordinarily in these sort of cases, and I'm not telling you what to do one way or the other, because of the nature of the matters, the parties are asked to bear their own costs. But again, what happens in 5 years if people can come in 8 petitions, 1 was struck out, and say whatever they wish to say without offering evidence? I think there was some advocate who said yesterday, we're going to have 200 petitions in 5 years. Why? Because nothing, there are no consequences. We can all come here and be on television, there are no consequences. So what are we asking of you? We are asking you to give us back our country. Determine that there were no infringements, that we had a proper election. We have been in election mode for so long. The only thing that creates wealth is actually working. And this is not work. With respect, the tens of thousands, men and women who preside over elections are teachers and farmers and artisans and you name it. We're being asked to make them come back to work in a few months, or in 60 days to be precise. There is no justification for that. The order that should commend itself to you is to dismiss these petitions because they fall far short of what is required. Those are my submissions. Mr. Kioko Kilukumi will now address you on the 9th issue.
Your Ladyship, the Chief Justice, Deputy Chief Justice, Justices of the Supreme Court, my name is Kioko Kilukumi, and I appear for the first respondent. Our team